Hello everybody, my name is Sean Hawkins. I'm the Economic Development Manager for the City of Yakima, and we're here in downtown Portland, Oregon. We're here today to take a look at public spaces as we're looking to design one in our downtown core. Portland is an excellent laboratory for public spaces. There's over 20 here in the downtown core. We have ones that are thrived and legendary, like Pioneer Courthouse Square behind me, and then there's a number that are deemed failures for a number of reasons, most importantly because they don't feel safe and they haven't stimulated economic development. So join us today as we have George Crandall as our guest. George Crandall is with Crandle Arambula and is going to take us around and show us some of these public spaces and talk about why they work and why they don't work.
Plazas are tricky, and they're hard to design, and they're hard to get right. There are a number of factors that need to be taken into account. And one of the first ones, of course, is that it be at a crossroads in the downtown, in a central location. And this one's in a central location. I mean, it's in the heart of downtown Portland. It's not on the edge, it's in the center. It's surrounded by major buildings. And when it's at the crossroads, because we have light rail on actually 3 sides of the square now and the bus transit mall on one side. So it truly is at a circulation crossroads and in a geographic center of the downtown. Another requirement of a square like this is that there be enclosure, that you feel like you're in a room, that it not leak out to some other space. So what they did was create these colonnades. You can see the colonnade around on 2 sides, on the south side and on the north side, and the columns and the walls really start to create that screen or that enclosure. People need to feel safe in this kind of space 24 hours a day, and this one is very open. There are really no places to hide here at all. You have the sense that you could go through here any time of the day. These buildings which surround the square, which we say have active storefronts. In other words, it's not necessarily retail. In some cases it's a commercial space, but the building fronts are open and accessible. So there's activity going on in all of the building faces surrounding the square. And too often these kinds of spaces are designed, over-designed with stuff in them that prevents them from being used as a stage for activity. So these big flat surfaces without any obstructions are extremely important. You should be able to drive a semi onto these spaces. In other words, to load up stuff and take stuff away, and that's possible here. The materials that are used need to be durable because they take a lot of abuse. You can see all the people here, the kind of things that go on, and so durability is important. And so the pavers, of course, these are brick pavers and very dense, very hard, and they wear well then over time. The ability to circulate through it is always important, that you don't feel controlled, like you have to be somewhere or you're on a pathway. And so you can cut through this space diagonally from that corner or that corner without any obstructions. And that's part of the openness and accessibility, the usability of it. People aren't forced to go around the edge. They're actually encouraged to come on through the middle of the space. These are the old historic park blocks in downtown Portland, and the government center is really organized around these park blocks. There are 2 of them here. The idea here is that you can diagonal through these. The center of the parks is open to the public, and so there are no backwater, there are no hiding places. The public can walk right on through, right diagonal on through them, and there is an important lesson then to be learned for plazas, which is you need the same kind of access through the middle so there aren't places and backwaters where you may get people hanging out. This is Terry Schrunk Plaza. It was built at the same time as the federal building, which is behind you, and there is a parking garage below grade then under this plaza. This is the most activity I've ever seen in this plaza, and I think it's because we've got a group of school children who came on by. This is kind of a hybrid. It's between an open space or a little plaza and a park. And because of that, both of them are seriously compromised. But let's go back to the fundamentals. Is it a crossroads? No, it isn't. It's really on the edge of it's more on the edge of the downtown. So we don't get a lot of pedestrian traffic or a lot of activity here, and we don't have any retail around it.
I've lived in Portland my entire life, and I've never known that this park was here. I worked way over there, and I would get dropped off when I'd carpool, and I'd walk about 12 blocks, and I never knew it was here. I think it's because of all the tall trees, you know? And maybe it doesn't feel as safe, like if you're off walking, you know, so.
The enclosure here is problematic in that it is kind of empties out onto the street. There's no real sense of an edge other than the greenery up here, which is a problem in itself, in that it's a place where then the homeless hang out, in the bushes and off to then your left and in the green space, and then quite often then it has a feeling of being unsafe. And it's not a place that you want to cut through then in the late evening, because there's no activity then around the space because of where it is. It's then not at the crossroads. For a community that wants to spend money wisely to catalyze private development, this is not what you need. And so once you have your living room, your plaza in your community, then you can think about maybe creating some of these spaces in other places in the downtown if you do it very carefully. But this is not what you lead with. This is just basically a waste of precious taxpayers' dollars when you've got bigger problems. This is OBrien Square. It's a remnant of the old Portland park block system. It's really in the north end of town. It's not at a crossroads. It's really at a backwater in the downtown, and many people don't even know where this place is. This one is really fenced off in many ways from the street, and if you're on the street, it's hard to see into this space. We would say that it's over-designed. The idea was to park certainly below it, to provide some parking here. So one end of it's raised to allow the parking to come in on the north end. I say it's over-designed in that we have fountains which don't operate anymore simply because they're expensive to operate and there's no one here to see them. And so this is basically not considered to be a safe place. I think it was redesigned again. They'd think very differently about how they were designed to design it. But at the time, I think they did their best, and it was just really a miss. So we would consider this one to be a real failure in the city. It catalyzes no new development. basically the development was here. Nothing has happened in this area since this plaza was built, because it's not considered to be a special place or a real amenity in the city, and many people think that it is a problem in the city. You're about 1 block from Pioneer Courthouse Square, so you're very close to the crossroads in the downtown. This block is half the size of Pioneer Courthouse Square, and it's 100 by 200, and Pioneer Courthouse Square is 200 by 200. As I say, it's really very close to the crossroads, and so there's a lot of activity in this area, a lot of spillover then from Pioneer Courthouse Square. This one's very different in that this one is kind of it's not a backwater because there's a lot of activity, but it is not a place where you can stage major events, simply because you can see, looking around, that most of it is occupied by structures or raised areas or changes in grade, and then back behind me, fountains for children, or a pool that fills up and then will also empty. The other very interesting thing is that they have, on to my left, carried the edge of the plaza to the face of the building. In other words, the material that you see on the plaza continues over. This is a curbless street, and it goes in right up to the face of the building. There are no curbs, no edges into the sidewalk, because the idea is that this plaza will reach out and embrace the building, and you should be able to walk out of those buildings and directly onto the plaza. If we had to fault this, it might be, believe it or not, in the use of materials. You see this beautiful white paving, or light-colored paving that's here, and it is it's a granite, but boy, does it get dirty. There is a pavilion back behind you. It's just basically a series of columns with beams on top, glass ceiling, so it provides rain protection during our many rainy days for people sitting outside the little restaurant behind you. So they're really undercover. They're not in the rain. That pavilion can be lit up at night. The beams light up with different colors. They're LED lights, so it can be red or purple or blue, and it can change over a period of time. So the lighting in itself is then an attractor at the night, and it adds to the feeling of safety and security. If you're going to spend the money on a plaza, it needs to really stimulate additional development in the area. And this one, because it is at the crossroads, and because it meets the basic fundamentals of plaza design, it has been a game changer in that when this space was built, developers knew where they needed to be in the downtown. They needed to be along these streets, and they wanted to be close to the center of activity, Pioneer Courthouse Square.